when you started making music for yourself again, it was very much blues inspired, roots inspired.
Right.
How much of that musical tradition were you familiar with before going into it?
Well, it's funny. The way I look at it, I call it all black roots music because
Sure.
we're all familiar with it in the world everywhere I
Of course.
travel. It's in our DNA. So whatever music you're doing, you're taking some of that. You're going to that black roots music
Right.
garden and you're picking, you know, the fruits of it. Whether you're doing rock and roll, whether you're doing EDM, whether you're doing soul, you're picking from that garden, whether you know it or not. So, I mean, I think I was in my DNA. I was familiar with it. I had Southern relatives that lived in the rural South, and I had an uncle. His name was Horace Brown. He used to drink Johnny Walker Red and grape juice every morning on the porch, and he loved the music. So it was something that I was familiar with, but I was listening to a lot. I was really into listening to Skip James and Robert Johnson and Charlie Patton and Blind Lemon and all these amazing, Blind Willie Johnson, which came later. But Howlin' Wolf, I thought, wow, this is great. I love this. I couldn't imagine doing it, but I loved it. And I was in a collective, an art collective, and one day one of the members was like, man, why don't you get back into doing music? I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do you love right now? Like, right now I love this kind of black roots blues sound. Why don't you do it? I was like, no, nobody would. Who wants to hear that? And I was encouraged to do it, so the first song I wrote was Night Has Turned Today, oh, night has turned today. And I was like, oh, I felt a connection. So I'd go out in the street and I'd play it and just kind of see if I could connect with people getting off the train. Because I was the best audience. Like, if you got a song, go test it out on people who don't want to hear the song. So once I wrote that, it opened up. And I just, like a flood now, and that was it.
This might sound like a silly question, but especially at that point in your life, why were you able to connect to that type of music or the blues so much?
Probably because I had failed enough, you know, and I'd lived enough, and I'd got knocked on my ass enough. I'd lost my hand, and I'd had record deals and lost them, and I think once you live a little bit, you can really understand the blues.
Right.
Because it's a feeling, man. That's all it is.
And is then the trick or the mastery to try and transport that feeling to your audience?
Well, you want to connect with your audience. I mean, that's very important to me. And, you know, you better be, one of your most honest moments is going to be that moment of that song in that studio. That's the moment of honesty.
Right.
And that's a sonic experience. When I'm producing a record, that's this whole sonic experience that's happening. It's very spiritual. When you do a live show, then that's another sonic experience. I don't try to duplicate the record. Just, it's so powerful, like, to connect with another human being.
Well, how do you experience live shows then?
You gotta channel the spirits, baby. And, you know, you gotta channel the gods.
Okay.
But yeah, you have to be, I call it church without the religion. You know, it's like the Holy Ghost without all the religion, kind of. Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
But does it have a redemptive quality or
Oh yeah, totally.
Afterwards?
Best drug in the world.
Okay.
And when I do a show, I'm done. I go to sleep. No partying, you know, I'm kind of boring. I sip some tea and go to sleep.
But it's interesting because you say, well, you didn't really want to go back into the music business, but people kind of urged you, well, it's very good. And did you have hesitations because what you went through before?
No, absolutely not. When I did Fantastic Negrito, I was clear.
Okay.
I was clean. I exorcised the demons.
Okay.
And I was willing to tell the truth,
Okay.
which is very hard. You know,
yeah,
in my case at least.
Well, because it is, I mean, the songs are very personal, you're very honest in them, and to open yourself up to
scary.
Not always the best side of yourself.
Yeah, it's scary. It's but it's necessary. Because I think as human beings, the greatest thing that we can all do, it's just like with this camera, is contribute something. You want to change the world, contribute something. If you're wanting to take stuff, then, well, you may be pretty sad. And I've been that person, the person who wanted to, I want this and I want that and more women and more wine and more this and that. And that's a misery. But I think the part of being honest and connecting, that's like contributing. You're doing your part as a human.
And for you, in these two mentalities, when for you was the change? Was it around the time your son was born, or was it before that?
Well, I think it was after. I think because then I had to get the idea of being this artist, Fantastic Negrito.
Right.
And then I thought that this guy is very brutally honest, even to the point of self-embarrassment. And I think that was fitting.
Well, let me ask you this then. On the Last Days of Oakland, was there a song that you were trepidatious about it? Did you thought, well,
I mean,
that's maybe too
now here's the thing. That's the point. See, when you're in that studio, that's the honest part. Now I want to be full of shit a little bit.
Right.
You know, now I want to try and tell you, oh no, man, I was cool with everything. I don't second guess shit. I want to be that dude now.
Right.
That's what, you know what I mean? It's just like, but I tell you, that moment in the studio was very honest, and I'm sure everything, you know, that's when you know you have a great song, when I'm like, oh shit, can I say that? That's the song, you know. And I remember even doing the EP, there was songs that like you're writing. But those are the songs that you're connecting with. I think like to jump off Last Days of Oakland, like say like An Honest Man, like that song where people are like, oh shit, but that's great. Sure. Maybe on the Last Days of Oakland, the nigga song. Like people, my mother's like, what are you doing? Why would you say that? But I think you have to in order to open up, and you have to be the artist that will say those things in a constructive way. I'm not just throwing it out there. I wanted to write that song because I felt like the word had been just misused and abused and misrepresented and misunderstood, and I had a take on it that I thought was a contribution again.
Right.
And so that song, that was probably a song that I was like, oof. I was like, should I name it that or should I name it something else? Okay. Even the Last Days of Oakland, like I felt fine, but I remember announcing it it was a room full of like, you know, white hipsters, and I was in Oakland, I'm like, hey, I'm working on this album called The Last Days of Oakland. They're like, like, oh shit. But it's okay.
So then you know you have something.
You know you got something,
right.
Because people are like, not to be a sensationalist, but something to really make us think. You know, who wants to be an artist and you're just going through it? No, I think artists, our job is to be provocative, make people think.
And obviously, and with you mentioned kind of the whole racial divide that's going on in America as well.
Well, it's always going on in America.
And I was going to say, because that is part of your experience, and so you can't
hide from it.
Exactly.
I look at it like this: in humanity, in America, whatever, we're all a family. Whether we like it or not, if you're in a family, you should voice yourself responsibly, so that you can connect with the other family members. Mm-hmm. That's the only way. You can't lie to each other. It'd be a terrible relationship. If we were friends and I just lie to you like every day, you'd be like, well, what's wrong with you? You know? Right. So I think that as artists, we have that, responsibility. You got to tell the truth, man.
There's a Lost in the Crowd. Is that kind of what Lost in the Crowd is about as well? About that kind of the unifying quality?
Well, Lost in the Crowd, I think it was in my collective, they're like, man, you're like, I call myself a recovering narcissist.
Right.
So I'm recovering, like a recovering addict. They're like, all these songs, it's like me. It's like it's like, man, go out into the streets and go watch people. Then come back with the songs. I was challenged by my collective again, Blackball Universe, which is my collective, and it was good. And so I was just going out people watching, watching people and the interaction and people working jobs and going to work and dragging their kids around, and I came up with Lost in the Crowd. But that was about, I think, observing people.
Because I wrote down a line, and I'm not 100% sure anymore which song it was from, but it says, we are innocent living in a prison of stress, anxiety, and fear.
Oh, that's not Lost in the Crowd. No. That's That's Push Back.
Yeah, Push Back.
That's our newest song.
So that's one of the newer songs. But
One of the newest songs.
is it that ties in with
I
what
feel
you
like that
mentioned?
was just watching the political atmosphere. It just felt like, I mean, lyrically, that song, yeah, it's just, man, look, here we are, we got to talk about this thing, you know? It is a prison. Stress and anxiety and fear, that's kind of a prison. And it leads to spiritual demise, I believe.
Because I haven't been to America since the whole election thing happened, but is there a noticeable difference? Do people...
Definitely. The same song I wrote, The Shadows, about where people, a lot of, you know, hate and ignorance has come out of the shadows and it's into the spotlight now, where it's almost fashionable to just be an asshole.
Right.
But you know, I don't worry about that. I try to walk towards the light, man. I'm not gonna. No one, you're not gonna drag me down. And I think we can defeat all these things with encouragement, love, positivity, and possibilities, and you know, being an artist.
And with all of what we've talked about now, and then going into these honest things and on a record, and well, you haven't been in the music industry for a while, and then all of a sudden you're nominated and win a Grammy. What is that like? What is that?
Well, I
was
think
it a little bit counterintuitive?
Listen, it's great. You're happy, but you have to, especially as an artist, I have a kind of an ideology or philosophy. It's like you got to not give a fuck.
Right.
You got to really, man, get to the source. So the Grammy's great. You know, I pack my Grammy up and just put it away. It's great. I love it, but I just want to stay in this bubble as long as I can till it bursts. When it bursts, then we'll see. But this is great. Just, man, going into the streets and playing songs and just, man, feeling amazing in the studio and live. I love this. I'm in love with this now. So I don't want to think about anything. I don't want to read interviews. Sorry.
No, fair enough.
I just want to just stay in love with the music. I'm in love with this music now.
Right, and then these kind of things are like distractions.
Well, these are tools. I get it, and we have to do them, and it's okay. But it's just, I have television. Right. So the Grammys, all that great, but hey, thank you. Moving on, baby. Make some. What about the songs?
Right.
It's all about the songs. David Bowie didn't win a Grammy his whole career.
Right.
And if I can be like him, that's I'd rather be like him. And they finally gave him one when he passed. So we have to be very careful.
So, very, very last question. And you mentioned that Dave Bowie as well, who's always been an innovator.
I love him. Yeah.
What have you noticed about what you're writing now? Because the album has been released for over a year, I think. Now.
Yeah.
So what have you noticed about what you're working on and what you're writing now?
Well, I just wrote Push Back and the other song, The Shadows. I just whatever's going on, you know, around us in the society, I kind of try to write about that. I don't think I'm really political or anything like that. I just, hey, this is happening, you know. It could be like the dog's running down the street. Oh, that could be good. The dog is running down the street. Right. Whatever. I don't know. Whatever is going to be meaningful. And again, whatever is a contribution. I'm really interested in that at this point in my life. Right. You contribute something. It just feels good.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Pleasure.